Welcome back to Stronger Bones Lifestyle Podcast. If you caught part 1, you know we unpacked a lot. How bone loss isn't just about aging, the impact of stress, diet, and hormones, and why traditional medical approaches to osteoporosis are failing us. But we're not stopping there. Today, we're diving deeper into factors that are silently weakening your bones. We'll talk about metabolic conditions like diabetes, metabolic acidosis, and kidney disease, and how they contribute to bone loss without you even realizing it. Plus, environmental toxins, heavy metals, air pollution, radiation, things you might not think about that have a real impact on your bone health. And let's not forget lifestyle. We'll talk about the role of movement and circulation, and even how stress, anxiety, and depression can affect your bones. And of course, I'll give you real, actionable steps you could take right now to build stronger bones for life. So if you're ready to take back control of your bone health and learn what's really going on beneath the surface, let's jump in. Metabolic conditions, number 31, diabetes. So diabetes can have an effect because either we skip meals or we're not eating enough of the right things. We have this dysregulation with our blood sugar not getting into our cells. Insulin is secreted. Chronic insulin secretion in your body triggers an immune response. So it's this whole dysregulation of blood sugar that can have an effect. Number 32, metabolic acidosis. So that can be from uncontrolled diabetes. It could be from a highly acidic diet. It can be because you have kidney issues, liver issues. It could be because you're exercising too much. And so these are all factors that are going to lead to metabolic acidosis. Number 33, chronic kidney disease. So this could be uncontrolled high blood pressure can have an effect. Your kidneys need to regulate your blood pH to be in this precise 735, 745 range. So they are going to do all that they can. And two of the most regulatory areas or organ systems that regulate the blood pH are number 1, kidneys, number 2, lungs. So breathing properly, deeply, and if you have poor posture, that's going to affect that. So making sure that you have optimized everything to support your kidneys. You want to make sure you're hydrated enough for kidneys, that you have a diet rich in minerals that are going to keep your body in that healthy state. And diabetes can have an effect here as well. And then what else? Let's see, number 34, hyperparathyroidism. So hyperparathyroidism is when there's an imbalance happening. So you have unexplained fatigue or weakness can be a sign here. Your calcium levels in your blood would be elevated. You have kidney stones. You experience bone pain or fractures. This is something that would be monitored in a blood test looking at your PTH, parathyroid hormone, and also calcium in your blood. Number 35, Cushing's syndrome. Cushing's syndrome, it could be from taking long-term steroid medications. And if you have unmanaged pain in your body, if you have joints that are painful and you're doing steroids to get out of the pain for a little while, that can have an effect on your body that could lead to Cushing's. And what would you do there? Well, if you have shoulder issues, you got to strengthen the back of your body to hold yourself up. Not keep giving a shot so that you get out of pain. Take control of your body, of your bones, of your life. Learn what can you do to stack and align your joints to be out of pain so that you don't need those injections or those steroids. Weight gain can be unexplained. Weight gain is a sign of Cushing's. Muscle weakness is a sign. Bruising easy can be a sign. And so monitoring that, again, physicians come in here, preferably functional medicine physicians that are going to be a partner in your health with you and not tell you, take this pill, do this thing, but rather, okay, Susie Q, let's see what we can do here to turn the ship around on this issue or this issue or this issue. So functional medicine physicians, what I recommend there. Environmental factors, number 36, heavy metal exposure. Throughout our whole life, we're exposed to toxins. It's in dental fillings. If you eat large fish frequently, so sometimes we call this sushi marker, where we're exposed to large fish that have been around in the ocean for a long time, being exposed to heavy metals, and then we eat them. If you live near an industrial area, if you use traditional medicine, some medicines have heavy metals. Toxins are everywhere, and you've got to be careful on anything that is in, on, or around your body. Number 37, air pollution. So traffic, you don't have a filtration system in your home, you are exercising indoors, you don't go out often enough, you're exposed to secondhand smoke. Radiation exposure is number 38. You've had multiple CT scans, and guess what? A DEXA scan, although it's not a lot, it's still exposure. It's still exposure to radiation. And so this is why, again, the ultrasound technology that's going to be coming and that we're going to push for. Ask your doctor about it. We need to educate the world that we are changing the way we've diagnosed, managed, and treated osteoporosis since the 90s, disempowering women. We're going to be in control. Go to your doctor and say, hey, have you heard of REMS? It's an ultrasound for looking at my bones. And then you can send them to me or my website and they can learn more about it or find information to send to them. Radiation therapy is another way. And, if you've had cancer or something where you've needed radiation therapy, in that moment, staying alive was the top priority. And so there are situations and factors that we cannot control. Then once we're out of that situation, then we learn, okay, now what can I do? You work in healthcare where there's radiation. You've had frequent x-rays. So when we have these, we don't really think about, oh, wait, let me look at this. Let me get an x-ray for this, an x-ray for that. When I go to the dentist and they say, oh, time for your 2-year annual or your biannual or whatever, what is that? 2 years, not biannual. Every 2 years, x-rays. I'm like, why? Do we have to? And I was told that actually insurance made it so that every 2 years, dentists had to recommend x-rays. That's what I've been told by a few people. So I tell them, no, I don't want you to x-ray here. Okay, I'll let you x-ray this section here or this section here. And so my dentist works with me on this. Number 39, chemical toxins, harsh cleaning products, flame retardant in our curtains, in our pajamas, in our rugs, in buildings, in walls, occupational exposure, pesticides in gardens. And you know where one of the biggest areas that we are exposed to toxins? In your drinking water, in unfiltered tap water. So when we go to restaurants, do you think that water they're giving us is filtered? Do you have a filter in your home? Look into that. I have a water filter. There's a few that I recommend. You can look around on my website and see. I'll give you some recommendations. Number 40, UV light deficiency. We need to be exposed to light because so many biochemical processes inside of our body are triggered by light exposure. The retina, the optic nerve, brings in, there's certain chemical ionization aspects like melatonin for sleep. Actually, melatonin and cortisol, your daily dance of these two, get up and go, and now go to sleep. Get up and go to sleep. That circadian rhythm pattern that takes place in our body for biochemical balance is regulated by sun exposure. So going out to the sun and letting the sunlight hit the retina at different points throughout the day helps to regulate that process. So are you mostly indoors? Do you avoid the sun because you had skin cancer? I had skin cancer 3 times. I avoided the sun like crazy. And now I ask my doctor, who looks at my skin routinely, and he said, yep, even with your history, it wasn't melanoma, it was basal cell or squamous. Even with your history, 15 minutes unprotected, front and back is okay. And then where do you live? And do you have exposure to sun? That's important. So you might need to plan a little sunny vacation getaway when the sun is at its peak so that you can actually get your vitamin D for your bone health. Maybe you need to tell your boss that, whoever you need to tell, or maybe you don't need to tell anybody. Maybe you need to tell yourself for self-care. Hey, time for the vitamin D vacation for my bones. Medication-related factors. Number 41, antiphylactic drugs, seizure medications. That can be anticonvulsions, Again, having your physician monitor this if that's you. Protein pump inhibitors, a big one I see in my world. Women that have either in certain cases, there are certain disease or pre-disease states like Barrett's esophagus that you may need to be on a protein pump inhibitor, or the one below that, the H2 blockers. You might be able to get away with that. You have to speak to your physician about that. Protein pump inhibitors, they stop digestion in the stomach because it's the digestive juices from the stomach that comes into the esophagus that creates that heartburn. Well, if you stop digestion, what happens to digestion of nutrients that build bones? That stops too. Protein pump inhibitors lead to bone loss and to osteoporosis, and that is studied. So if you are on PPIs, work with a physician to see what you can do, or if it is possible. And if this is a factor you can't control the other 99. Remember, it's not an all or nothing. Number 43, heparin. This is a long-term blood thinner. And so paying attention to that and making sure that you are monitored. SSRIs. These are antidepressants, and they are going to have an effect on bone loss. So you'd have to work with a prescribing licensed person here, your physician, in order to figure out what can you do, what should you do. And I'd like to also say here that when your gut is healthy, that even mental, emotional aspects of us improves. And so when I work with women doing gut labs and we start to work on gut health, the mental, emotional way they feel starts to shift. And you might not need as much, or maybe not even at all. And again, you'd have to work with a physician on that and see somebody who is in that's their wheelhouse, and they know that, and they know you, and they know what's going on with you. And then this one, thiazolidinones. Thiazolidinones. All right. So whatever those are, but a medication and one of the 100. So that was number 45. Number 46, reduced growth hormone. So reduced growth hormone. So this has to do with, there's factors that will affect your growth hormone. Gut can play a role here as well. And you're going to notice maybe some loss of muscle tissue. So there's a lot of factors that could happen here. They say that strength training to make sure you maximize your muscles, and optimizing sleep, because when we sleep, we do a lot of repairing work. And so maybe you have some issues here in your body because you're not getting your deep sleep. So noticing that. Decreased insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1. So you'll notice if your wounds take longer to heal, or your muscle strength is declining, this could be another factor or something that you're experiencing. A decrease in exercise tolerance, and you have poor muscle recovery. So you would need to have that checked with your physician or someone you're working with. Cellular senescence. So cellular senescence, a state of permanent cell cycle arrest that occurs in response to various stressors, such as DNA damage, oxidative stress, and telomere shortening. So what I'm going to say there is this might be where the ANA, which is one of the markers in your blood that you could have tested, that shows that at the DNA level, there are some issues going on in your body. So getting some deep work. And I have a lot of functional medicine physicians that I work with, and this is their area of expertise, is looking at ANA markers in blood. So that's the thing, ANA markers in your blood. Mitochondrial dysfunction. You get tired more easy, your energy crashes, you experience muscle fatigue faster, takes longer to recover. Well, mitochondria is where our energy production in our cells is. And let me say something about the mitochondria, because there's a lot out there on this now. You need magnesium, so you need to be digesting, absorbing, having a good gut to bring in the nutrients to supply the mitochondria to make energy. But a real big area here is you need to manage stress and trauma. This is where trauma shows up. And there's something called cell danger theory and cell danger response. And what happens is we're in a stress place where our body is able to react to situations, and we like that. We get the energy, the muscles get ready. We're able to flee, fight, or handle or respond to the situation. But if we can't handle it anymore, if it's chronic and over long term, we could go shift into cell danger response. And that's a trauma response. And that happens at the layer of the mitochondria. So one of my podcasts is with one physician, Amy Apigian, The Biology of Trauma. And she just educated me so much on how this plays a critical role, and something I see in women that have a lot of mental, emotional trauma, drama that they've been dealing with in this lifetime, especially if you've had some biggies. There's something called the ACE score that you could do. It's a test you do online, and it's divorce, abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment. There's just many factors that go into that. Number 5, telomere shortening. Now, this was a big study that was done at a UCSB, I think, in the early 2000s. These little ends of our DNA, like the laces on the shoestrings that have the plastic around them, if the plastic's off, they fray. And so when the telomeres at the end of our DNA shorten, that's actually a sign of accelerated aging. So this is accelerated aging. Stress is going to play a role. Stress, not just mental, emotional. I'm going to say, what about food? What about not moving enough for your body? What about what too many straws in your camel's back? How many straws do you have in your back, and what are those straws? Because those can actually lead to stress and to telomere shortening. So paying attention to what you can do. 51, reduced growth hormone. So this is, and I think I did mention a little bit about growth hormone before, but growth hormone reduction. And some of the signs would be decreased strength, poor muscle recovery, fatigue, and then you'd have to have a physician involved with you here. And then let's go to number 53, right? We were on 53, pretty sure. And if we weren't on 53, then I'm pretty sure we are on 53. Because I had again 52 cellular senescence, right? Which was the factory was closing down. So I went over here probably 102. So we're going to get to the 100. So let's go to 53, poor circulation. This is mostly lifestyle based and reversible. That's good news. Okay. Really good news. Your extremities, here's what you would notice. Your extremities are cold. You might experience numbness or tingling. I get asked quite often about neuropathy and idiopathic neuropathy. Whenever you hear that term idiopathic, it means, I don't know. I don't know why it's happening. So idiopathic could be that there is some poor circulation going on. Are you moving enough? Are you aligned posturally? Do you have enough minerals to help run the show internally? Or is your digestion optimized? Do you have good gut health? Do you have leaky gut, which is contributing to inflammation and not absorbing nutrients? So pay attention to that. And then 54, I have trouble with this word. Okay, number 54, Atherosclerosis. I think I said it right. Partial lifestyle-based and reversible. Yeah, because I'm going to say a lot of cardiovascular stuff is reversible and manageable. And so this is not, oh, I have this, let me take that pill. This is another one of the areas that I see, here's the pill. Well, if you're under chronic stress, what I learned in my yoga therapy training is this. It was a cardiologist that taught us this. And he actually was one of the attending physicians with Dean Ornish's reversing heart disease programs that was funded by Aetna. So what Dr. Brownstein taught us was they mostly did yoga, by the way. They did diet, an anti-inflammatory diet, plant-based, and yoga. And here's what he said. If you're under chronic stress, your blood vessels are dilating, contracting, dilating, contracting, dilating, contracting. And he said eventually they turn into like Arnold Schwarzenegger vessels, muscular vessels. They're muscles. And if they get too stiff and rigid, your blood can't pump through it beautifully. You're going to get high blood pressure. You also, if you don't have that ability to get movement in your vessels, you're going to get plaque buildup on there, which is going to make smaller opening, harder for blood to get through. Heart needs to pump faster and more. So dietary shifts, stress management, optimized sleep, huge ability to reverse or at least slow down or have an effect on some of these diseases we thought were actually forever diseases, like osteoporosis. 55, hypertension, your blood pressure. Here, this plays a role with what I was just saying here. And stress, you got to pay attention to stress here, that. Number 56, endothelial dysfunction. So this will be another internal biochemical aspect here. And again, this is going to be stress and tissues, the lining of your tissues. So let's pay attention to stress management, and that's going to affect your blood pressure. A lot of women that I work with are on blood pressure medications. Arterial calcifications. When you have calcium deposits, calcium is a hard mineral. It's what makes teeth and bones. So if you have that outside of your teeth or your bones floating around in your moist blood vessels, it can get stuck, or around your heart. This is why you want to be careful with calcium supplementation. And this is why I say most people do not need calcium supplementation. They need to eat their calcium, and not in dairy. Eat your calcium where it's mostly found, which is everywhere. Start looking at your labels. I have cooking classes that I do on calcium-rich diets. I have a cookbook that has a lot of cooking calcium foods in there. And when I was preparing for this, what I was amazed by is calcium is everywhere in our food. We do not need to take a little white pill. And you know, some of those little white pills you're taking might be really horrible forms of calcium, like ground up rocks. So pay attention to what you're doing. This is education. Education is queen. Asking yourself right now, wait, are my calcium supplements rocks? And the 1,000 to 1,200, no, we don't. Maybe closer to 700 or 800. Get it in your food. Psychological factors. Number 58, chronic stress. I've said quite a bit about chronic stress, maybe not labeled it like this by itself, but those elevated cortisol levels, you're not going to be making steroid sex hormones, which are bone protective. And you're going to be making your blood vessels too muscular so they can't pump and do what they need to do. And then you're going to feel muscular tension. You're going to feel pain. You're going to exercise less. You're going to have more issues in your tissues. And then you're not going to move enough to pull and push on your bones. 59, depression. This is treatable and partly lifestyle based. And what do I mean by that? Well, we need to bring in some self-care. And self-care is not selfish. And being selfish is really a good thing, because selfish means you're caring for yourself. And you need to put your face mask on first before you can care for others. Sun exposure is going to help you with your internal biochemical dance so that we can sleep deeply, so that we could find happiness. I read somewhere, not sure if it's true, but I'd say it's worth a shot. It's impossible to be depressed if you sit in the sunlight eating pineapple and cantaloupe. And I'm sure it's part of the, I don't know if yellow has to do with any of that. I'm sure that, you're getting sun exposure does so many great things inside your body. And there's enzymes that are going to support digestion when it comes to pineapple. It's sweet and delicious. And so that is something to try. And joining groups, finding something to believe in, spiritual, maybe art, doing art, finding friends, animals, going out in nature, sunsets, whatever it is for you, finding ways to get yourself up and out. Number 60, anxiety. And I work with a lot of women that have a lot of anxiety, and a diagnosis of osteoporosis can trigger anxiety. Very fearful, very worried about your future. What does your future look like? Anxiety in yoga, anxiety is fear of the future. It's future thoughts. We say that thoughts that are of the past are depressive, and thoughts of the future is anxiety. So worry, what's going to happen? What's going to be? Or, oh my gosh, it used to be like this. I used to have this. I used to do this. So that's why present moment, being in the present moment, is so valuable and critical for mental, emotional well-being. 61 is sleep disorders. You can work on becoming a better sleeper. Optimal sleep times 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And guess what? You shouldn't wake up to pee. What? You should not be waking up to pee. Well, for the last 2 weeks, since my friend taught me how to do this, Kim Vopni, She's also known as the vagina coach. She deals with pelvic floor issues. She taught me how to not pee at night. So here's what you do. When you wake up, tell your bladder you don't need to pee. That's step one. Step two, distract your bladder by moving your toes, pointing and flexing your feet, or activating your pelvic floor. So that's it pretty quick, but really we do not need to urinate at night. And I haven't been for 2 weeks. And guess what? I see hundreds of people every week, and I've shared this with them. And then in my community, Stronger Bones Lifestyle community, and I have women in there that are not peeing at night. It's amazing. I have peed in the middle of the night for 20 years, since my 30s or 40s at least, and I do not anymore. So it can happen for you too. Our bones remodel during sleep. So when you're not sleeping, your bones are not remodeling, they're not building, they're dissolving. Or at least if they're not dissolving, they're not building. Number 62, eating disorders. Were you someone that moderated what you brought into your body? Were you bringing in enough nutrition? Are you bringing in enough nutrition now, or are you really concerned with being thin? Because the more weight you have on your body, bones are judgmental and present moment. The more weight your body has to cart around, the stronger your muscles and bones will be. Now, that means within an ideal range, because obesity can be a contributing factor of osteoporosis. So we want to be in that Goldilocks, always looking for Goldilocks. Number 63, pregnancy. If you had pregnancies during pregnancies, the body is going to give the minerals to the baby and take them from you. So that could be something that could be for you. Number 65, amenorrhea, which is no periods. And that can sometimes happen when there are eating disorders or a really low body weight, or if there's imbalances in hormones or nutrient deficiencies. Number 66, early menopause. What age did you go through menopause? The average age may be around the early 50s. So if you were someone that went through early menopause, it might have been induced by a surgery or by something. You would know if this was you. So that's another thing like, oh, okay, this is something that might be a factor for me. Number 67, POS, polycystic ovary syndrome. So if that is something that you have, that could be a contributing factor. Digestive factors. Number 68, malabsorption. Now, malabsorption can happen if you have a condition that leads to this, but it can also happen if you don't, because you need a healthy gut in order to be absorbing your nutrients. Number 69, celiac disease. A very small percentage of those diagnosed with osteoporosis have celiac, and within a few months of removing gluten from your diet, if you're a celiac, you can reverse osteoporosis. So getting checked for celiac is something. Now, I want to say here that many people have a gluten sensitivity. Celiac is a disease that you really have to completely avoid gluten, but there are many people. I've run blood labs to look for food sensitivities. I have never found anybody who's not sensitive to gluten. And the reason, because the way we hybridize it, the way we grow it, the way we process it. And as human beings, we've only eaten this much gluten or eaten gluten in the last 100 years. And it's in everything. It's in ketchup and soy sauce. So gluten is a terrible food when it comes to your bones and your hormones and your thyroid and your gut. Number 70, chronic diarrhea. If you have chronic diarrhea, you are not absorbing nutrients. Number 71, gastric bypass surgery. Because again, here we're going to have a lack of your digestive tract to absorb your nutrients. That could contribute to osteoporosis. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, also known as SIBO. This is a manageable, treatable, reversible. This is all about gut health. You need to look into this, work with someone, do a program where you're going to heal this if this is you. You could, the symptoms, bloating, gas, quick evacuation like diarrhea and or constipation. Immune system factors. 73, autoimmune disorders. Your immune system attacks healthy tissue. Do you have a disease? Are you diagnosed with a disease, an autoimmune disease? That would be something to look into. 74, HIV or AIDS, because this affects the immune system. 75, primary immunodeficiencies. And if this is something you have a diagnosis of, then you would know this. And this is going to affect inflammation. Osteoporosis is an inflammatory disease. And so working with a physician, knowing that this is something that you need to pay attention to. 76, chronic infections. And this could be infections that are even gut infections. This could be bacterial overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, parasite issues. It could be Lyme disease, mold. There's a lot of different factors. And you might know this, or you could get functional testing to find out. 77, allergic conditions. Whenever we have allergies, we have an inflammatory response. Sneezing, lots of mucus, histamine reactions, skin, a lot of reaction shows up in your skin. Occupational factors. 78, prolonged sitting. Do you have a desk job or something that requires you to sit a lot? Number 79, night shift work. Not getting exposed to the sun is going to mess up your internal biochemical balance, not get that beautiful dance of melatonin, cortisol, and all the hormones and chemical aspects of our body, and then also vitamin D will be affected. 80, heavy physical labor. If you have heavy physical labor and your joints are experiencing a lot of high stress, your muscles are overworked, this can be a contributing factor. Number 81, vibration exposure. If this could be too much stress. So too many straws on the camel's back. So noticing here, if you're near something that's vibrating and moving and shaking you. 82, chemical exposure. So any kind of toxic exposure that could be having an effect at work. Neurological factors, multiple sclerosis. That can be something that will affect bone health. And again, here working with a physician if you have something that you're diagnosed with or you're on a medication. 84 is Parkinson's. Again, being under the advice of a medical doctor. 85, spinal cord injury can be a contributing factor. 86, a stroke. And this would be obvious in the way that there's something internally there's a block or a hurdle or something. So working with a physician and also somebody, occupational therapy, physical therapy. 87, peripheral neuropathy. Now, I mentioned idiopathic neuropathy, which doesn't have a cause. Peripheral neuropathy might have a cause, and this is something you would work with your physician to find out what that cause is. So here's some sports and exercise factors. Overtraining is number 88. And this is, pay attention. Are you doing too much? Are you giving your body the food it needs, the time it needs, the sleep it needs to repair? 89, sudden exercise cessation. Did you all of a sudden stop something? Bones are judgmental and present moment. What are you doing right now? What are you demanding right now? And if you're doing a lot, and then all of a sudden nothing, that will have an effect on slowing down bone building. 90, low energy availability. So the hormones imbalanced here. This could be that you don't have good digestion, so you don't have enough nutrients, and you're not able to do much. You're not able to move as much as before. So really trying to figure out what is the cause of that. 91, repetitive impact. So this is joints may be experiencing stress. Your bones may be stressed. Maybe posture could play a role here. There might be something that is happening. There might be something new that you're doing where you're always doing it on your left side or always on the right side or something. So just raising awareness, cross-training, not doing the same exercises over and over. 92 is muscle imbalances. And this could be in the same area where maybe it's posture, maybe you're doing one thing the same. We're dominant in one eye. So what I like to tell people is find out what your dominant eye is. So if you take your hands like this, and if you're listening and you're not watching, if you take your hands, make a small circle with your hand, with two hands on top of each other, make a small circle right where the thumb and the pointer fingers are, the size of a quarter. And whatever you're looking at that you could see, bring your hands straight to your face. Your opening will be on one eye, and that's the eye that's dominant. So mine is on the right side, so I'm right eye dominant. That means I do most things here in this field is in my right side, not in the left side. And that's because our brain is preserving its energy to keep you safe. So we're going to narrow the focus of what we're bringing in to make sure that right here, I'm safe. I'm safe right here. So maybe start to look to the other side and switch. Environmental stress, high altitude, that's going to deplete or reduce our oxygen levels. And that's going to have a shift in your metabolism. Your sleep may be affected. You may get headaches, dehydration. Number 94, extreme temperatures. That's a stressor on the body, and your body's going to use more energy for regulating that internal biochemical dance. And whenever the body has to prioritize something, the bones take the brunt of that. And partly because they're the bank for the minerals. And so they're going to respond, and that's going to have, we're raising our awareness to all of the different factors so that we could do something about it. Number 95, dehydration. This is huge. Think of a grape, a big, juicy grape. And what happens when it's dehydrated? It becomes a little squishy, tiny raisin. Big, juicy grape to a raisin. Dehydrated tissue, things don't get through it. It doesn't move. It would break and fray, not bend. You want to be bendable and not breakable. You also want transmission for fall prevention of your nerves and your fluids to move through your body. So with balance, we want that nervous system communication. And I haven't said this in a long time, but this is reminding me of this. You know, when there's lightning, they say don't stand in a puddle of water because it'll transmit the lightning, the electricity will transmit. Well, in our body, the more hydrated you are, the more transmissive you are, the more your body knows where are you standing for fall and fracture prevention. Number 96, seasonal changes. This is where vitamin D levels will come in. This is where you might not work out as much in the winter. If you live in a snowy place, you might be worried about slipping or tripping, so you might not go out as much. Your mood may be affected. You might not want to do as much. Number 97, environmental toxins. Everywhere. Invisible too. They're in the air. They're on all the foods that we eat. You know, since the 1970s, there's been over 80,000 pounds of chemicals introduced into our air. Think about in the 70s, 80s, when you would drive places and how many bugs were on the windshield wiper or on the grill of the car. That doesn't happen anymore because we have sprayed and killed. And guess what those toxins are? They're endocrine disruptors and neurotoxins. What are most of our diseases today? They are affecting our endocrine system, our hormones. Our bones are so strongly linked to hormones and neurotoxins. How many brain disorders, how much cognitive decline is happening now? All of those chemicals we've been pumping everywhere for all these years. So let's talk about some social and economic factors. 98 is poor access to healthcare. So not being monitored, maybe not even having the treatment that you need when you had a disease or something that could have been reversed, that something could have happened, a surgery that could have happened, that then you could move more to demand more from your body. Number 99, food insecurity. If you don't have enough money to buy organic produce to minimize your intake of toxins, your exposure to toxins, or you don't have that you can't buy nutritionally dense foods that are going to build your bones and other body tissues, this is a factor. Number 100, and I do believe I repeated there a couple, so let's give it a few extras here. Number 100, limited physical activity resources. Maybe you are not able to go out in the neighborhood that you live in to work out, or you don't have access to a gym, or you don't have any equipment at home, or you don't know of a yoga therapist that can teach you exercises, yoga therapy for bone health, to keep you safe, to create strong stimulation, or a trainer to learn how to do it safely and effectively. These are all going to play a role. And now that we have digital access to a lot of things, there are so many things. I teach one live class a week that I do as a donation-based for anyone around the world to tune in and do it live, and then to watch the recordings. So there are less barriers, I believe, when it comes to some of these things. 101, educational barriers. This might be that you didn't know a lot of this, and hopefully after listening to many of the factors here, you find ways that you can actually turn the ship around, reverse those lifestyle and habits and behaviors, bring in bone building habits and behaviors, and remove bone dissolving habits and behaviors. And then 102, socioeconomic status. you might not have access to all of these things. So here is the thing. There are so many factors that affect bone building and bone dissolving. This is not a progressive, degenerative disease, osteoporosis, or even osteopenia. It is not just something that happens with aging. It is what we thought. It's the way that institutionalized medicine and the business of medicine, big pharma, big healthcare, big food, it's what we were led to believe. We need a pill. We need this. We need this. No, we need the lifestyle every single day that's going to demand more from our body and our bones to make stronger muscles, stronger bones, aligned spine, better posture, to work on your core to hold you upright, to raise your awareness to how are you moving, standing, how are you thinking every day, what are you eating, what are you not eating that you should eat, how healthy is your gut, are you optimizing sleep? All of these are factors that are in our control. Osteoporosis is an inflammatory disease. It's a lifestyle disease. It's in your control. You are in charge of you. Help me change the global perspective and redefine bone health from the way we diagnose, manage, and treat. Not just me, but all of the physicians that I stand with alongside to change medicine as usual, bone health as usual. Find a doctor that will listen to you, that will make you a partner in your health, that won't bully you and have you do something that you don't feel right with. Tap into your gut, tap into your strength, because you are strong and you are in control of you. I hope that you learned something today, or a lot of things that you could change, or go to your doctor and talk about, or look for a doctor that will listen, because they are out there. Thank you for listening, and share this episode or episodes with anyone that may benefit. Ladies, we are going to be in control of our body and our bones. We're going to shift this so our daughters and our granddaughters do not have to follow bone health as it was since the 1990s until now. We are going to change it, and we are going to help others realize and learn and know we are in control of our own body and our own bones. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for joining me on Stronger Bones Lifestyle. Are you ready to take charge of your future? For show notes, resources, and information on my programs, please visit DebbieRobinson.com. If today's episode empowered you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs it. Together, we're building stronger bones and stronger lives. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.